I think I will be a very short illustration because I believe that we are at the end and we need the rest. Anyway, this conference was very good. In my opinion, was extremely good. I myself, I found well, many speeches were very exciting for me. But you see, since I was supposed to talk about social complexity, I would like to mention again the book of Alessandro Pingetore and Alfonso Maurizio Iacono, because is essentially is connected to social complexity, because the idea is the fact that a doctor has to, suppose a cardiologist, has to take care of his patient, taking into account the social environment of the patient. So, in a sense, this book is a book on social complexity. It's also a book on spirituality. In fact, I already mentioned this book in Prato because it involves what aspect. And but in fact, if you read the introduction of the book, you see that it takes look at. So the narrative version gradually assumed increasing importance as the need emerged to shift to more biologically, psychologically, socially, existentially focused models. And then he talked about COVID, which was a very important moment of, and they said that ignore both special, so he talks health humanities, medical humanities, narrative medicine are arts intertwined with sciences that allow to broaden the mindset and approach of healthcare professionals, helping them to produce better care and more well-being. Okay, so of this person is the collect person-centered contribution as only a multidisciplinary collaborative team can meet the challenge of combining the multiple aspects of human health, as well as the health of our planet, you see, and all the creatures that live on it, in a common effort to stop or reverse the enormous damage committed by humans during our anthropocentric era. A new paradigm of healthcare, education, and learning to create a sustainable health system, which is, so when I said you need a revolution, that's what you need. That's the revolution that I have in mind. But you see, I would like to make a very short illustration of the work currently done in social complexity. And I'm afraid that it will not be a fair illustration because it is essentially, it focuses on what you have been doing at the University of North Texas for this social complexity. Everything began with the work of Axelrod and Hamilton. You know, Ilke mentioned the Darwinian ideas. But that, in a sense, that's what they did. They created what is called Nash models that was discussed. It was the conference #1 of this conference by Stefano Bocaletti. And the idea is, what is a Nash model? You see, you know, there are two individuals, they play a game, and they have to make the decision to adopt the point of view of a cooperator or a defector. And they don't know what is the choice is made by the other player. They don't know if the other player made a choice of cooperation or choice of defection. But you see, the payoff for a cooperator playing with a cooperator would be R, which means 2R for the whole society. But big T here is larger than R, which is an incentive to select defection. Because if you want to be sure that you are going to win, is if you make the choice of defection, you're going to win. If you make the choice of cooperation, you might lose. And that's what you see the Hamilton and Axelrod had in mind. And they introduced the concept of network reciprocity. They said that they imagine that a network, there is a network, each node of network is human beings that has to play this game with its neighbors. And if the play is repeated many times, and if you want to make cooperation survive, you see, you have to defeat them. There is a wonderful paper proving that due to the network reciprocity, there is the chance for cooperator to survive. Cooperation can survive, and I believe that this is Kouros Mahmoudi that been making a talk today, and we made an attempt many years ago when it was probably in 2017. The idea was to introduce within the field of evolutionary game theory, which is the field of that created by Hamilton and Axelrod, and he wanted to introduce the concept of criticality. And to publish this paper, he had to fight because, so I think that we tried, so I think it was the reviewers made the criticism, then you replied, and then you had to reply again. Finally, you made it. But I believe that probably a paper that might help me to explain what you mean by introduction of criticality. So is this paper here, published on Frontiers, that is was published in 2017. And the idea of in this paper there is also in some way the idea of revolution was mentioned. I'm going to show to you why, because what happens in this case that the individuals of that network do not make a choice of cooperation of defection. They don't. They adopt a model that you have introduced many years ago, which is called the decision-making model. Each individual is influenced by the neighbors, and so if the majority of neighbors is for cooperation, they select cooperation. If the majority is defection, they select defection. But after that, after their choice, there is a devaluation of the payoff for the single individual and the payoff for the whole society. And then the next step is if the payoff tend to increase with if you adopt K, the parameter K is the intensity of the attention that each individual pays to the neighbors. And they can increase or decrease that intensity according to whether the payoff is increasing or decreasing. And so it is. There are probably. I don't like this very much, this figure, because give the impression that does not show in a clear way what happens. So K is the global parameters. K is the sum of the control parameters, the average of the control parameter, and it starts from 0. And you see that in a very short time, it reached a value close to 2, which for a regular two-dimensional network is very close to the prediction of Ising model. Ising model generates criticality. Well, excuse me, our model is a model that belongs to the universality class of Ising, and K is well known, and it is a little bit smaller than 2, and there is an evolution of the K towards that value, which is the reason why not only this is a theory based on criticality, but there is a natural evolution to criticality. You know, there is a big interest in what is called self-organized temporal criticality. How much time do you have? So because Ising model, in Ising model, you have to fix the intensity. Also in our decision-making model, you have to fix the intensity to find the criticality. Well, here, the system evolved by itself toward criticality. And what is interesting, however, is the fact that, you see, here I introduced the concept of benevolent dictator. So imagine that there is a dictator that says, evaluate case, and if you see that the payoff, but of course, the benevolent dictator is interested in the parameter. So going back to pi, it is quantity pi is the benefit for the society. Okay. So if you see that cooperation, the case selected is favor the increase of the payoff for the whole society. He says, well, give the order, a dictator. He says, increase or decrease, which is interesting in this paper that we found that this is well, this is I think Mirko. I would like to attract your attention to this because the benevolent dictator is something top down, and we prove that bottom up is much better because if you adopt bottom up, then the system evolves toward a condition of criticality, and then of course cooperation emerges. But if you adopt the bottom up, there is a phenomenon that you have discovered in this paper. There is a collapse of the organization. So there is the elite leading the system collapses. You have to select another elite, which is, in other words, I would say, I was talking about democracy for me is a bottom-up process. If it is not about bottom-up, is not a very good democracy. That going back to my concept of revolution, I would repeat this statement. Is okay now? Well, by the way, I would like to do that very quickly because you are tired, and you see, I introduced this paper here because Elke, in our meeting, Harvey has been telling us that you talk about the emergence of cooperation, ignores that actually is not correct. There are also individuals that here we call them contrarians that are so there is a kind of opposition, and so I decided to show this paper because we proved that also contrarians can be beneficial, because if you have so because using our models of decision-making model, then you might end up in a condition that you call supercritical. Supercritical is not a good condition for society. So an excess of people saying yes, 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 the majority of people saying yes, you end up in a condition that is supercritical and according, fine, okay, very well, fine. In fact, I think I can finish now. 5 minutes are more than enough. So we proved that to remain at the level of criticality, a given concentration of contrarians is important. We did that also in another paper that I think this paper is, David is co-author of this paper. We found essentially the same result. And let me see. I think that I have to talk very quickly about human mobility, but I'm afraid that because at the conference you had 2 speeches about human mobility. One done, well, I don't know if Luca Papalardo, I think, I don't know if he's here, but he made a very good speech, and I was very much impressed by his. And then, yes, it is Luca Papalardo, which this is the work that he did. Well, actually, he talked about another paper, but this is the paper that he did with Barabasi, which is, and then I would like to mention also Fabio Vanni and David Lambert, and well, Luigi Palatella is not here, but they have been studying the importance of mobility for in the case of COVID, and I think that that's all. I think that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are questions, remarks, comment.
You can disagree. So if you're okay, yes, there is a question.
The oldest in this room, so I have remember Paolo in the old times.
I remember.
So I didn't change his optimistic view, because I find it, and it's very important, because it's, you should introduce in the models also optimism, pessimism, I think, as a cooperation and okay, because this is part of the. Okay, but then I would like to make a comment very quickly about what's going on in Israel, because I had a discussion with a friend, David Mukamel, and I find it very interesting, and I really have no explanation.
Mukamel is the guy from Israel, right?
He's his brother. He's his brother. Shaul, you know Shaul. David he lives in Israel.
He's the brother of the Mukamel.
The brother of Shaul.
Ah, I see. Okay.
The brother of Shaul. So, and I think that it's an example of something strange that someone should understand. So, because there was a clear point in which a dictator was going to impose his will and transform the country into a dictatorship. And
but he's talking about Israel, the Mukamel?
Netanyahu.
Talking about Netanyahu.
Israel. He wanted to eliminate essentially the High Court of Justice because of his own problems with justice. But also he had support from, of course, extreme religious from other groups. And because of a flip in the parliament, there was a majority that was favoring this type of decision. Okay. And then there was a process, a bottom-up process, maybe with many contrarians. And they made up demonstrations in all in Israel of the size of, in Tel Aviv, of the size of hundreds of thousands of people, and not only in Tel Aviv, but also in other towns. And so finally, now the situation is that Netanyahu is adopting a different type of strategy, perhaps with the will of reaching the same objective, but at least the population was able to stop the process. So simply by demonstrations, by going to the streets, by a peaceful revolution, because there were not at all confrontations with the police. There were no fights in the streets, and people are going with families and so on. Okay, so this is only one of the problems that this country has. So I know that it's difficult to talk about this country because it has many different problems. But I found very strange that the Italian press didn't pay any attention to what's going on in this country. You find something in the press in the UK, in the US, but I would say that the press is not covering at all. And what I hear is only the testimonies from people who are going there by chance, and they seem to and they give testimonies of their participation in these demonstrations that goes on every Saturday. So I will not doubt that tomorrow there will be a demonstration in Tel Aviv, more or less the same size. So I don't know if this problem has been studied. So I asked friends, and they say that there are already some sociological studies saying that if you reach, so the first recipe that I've heard, I don't know if it is a recipe that is some theoretical base or not, is that if you reach a level of 3% in the number of the population, which means for Italy would be very complicated, because we need to reach demonstrations of a few millions people. Then the politicians will pay attention to what you are doing. And in Israel, apparently they reach these sides, and there are papers about these critical sides of demonstration. Also, another important aspect is that the demonstration should be peaceful. So there should not be fights. Otherwise, you coalesce those that are against, that will say, okay, look, these people are bringing violence in the streets, and so it's very important that demonstration reach. And another thing that is important is that you are succeeded to involve a lot of different kind of people, of different groups that should not be closed. So to people who think differently and so on. Okay, so these are some reflections. I don't know. I made it public because I think it's important. I don't know if it has a meaning or not, but I was astonished by the fact that the Italian press, even if you open the newspaper today, you will not find anything, not a single word about this. Okay.
To just add to your comment, it wasn't just the population, it was parts of the military and the recruits and people who fly fighter jets who were protesting against Netanyahu, basically jeopardizing the defense of Israel in case there was an attack. So there are also, national security issues, but I think it's also remarkable that the military and parts of the military were against him. So, and yeah, so it's utterly remarkable.
Sì, sì. Well,
I have a question for Paolo. This is a question. I want to reconnect with the first slide that was the book
the
about
first-
patient as a person.
I can go back.
Okay, okay. It's the book published by Pingitore. And I want the question is about here. Yeah, patient as a person. Okay, patient as a person.
Yes.
I will also replace patient with the word scientist as a person. If there is a way to define when a science make good science and bad science, what is your guess about how to measure what is good science and bad science?
Well, you see, the scientist, well, the scientist is play the role of a doctor, not the role of a patient, in the sense that because here the patient as a person means that the doctor is not enough. So therefore, if you talk about scientists, the scientist, you see, the doctor, there is so they talk about transdisciplinarity, the interaction between with many different disciplines. So and including sociology, psychology, right? Because precisely because the patient is a person and you need that interaction. So I would say that the scientists, many scientists, many different disciplines. That's the sense. That's my interpretation of the book. But I think you know, Pingitore, you might communicate your comment to him. And by the way, according to what I read in the program, I should have a yearly discussion about such a complexity. And I think that I would be very glad if you turn this the comment to my talking to a discussion, if you have some time.
Okay, okay. We started this with the continuity. We got to this new session in which Paolo.
I think that
I give you.
somebody else should come to. I mean, how do you organize the meeting?
No. Oh, you wish you can stay here and moderate the discussion. So I ask you comment, general comment. This new session is a global discussion on the current trend and view about the complexity. So, any comment, suggestion, remarks, idea? Current trend and view about the complexity.
Social complexity.
Some comments, observation.
Well, since I see a lady that she is studying cancer and how to defeat cancer. This is, but there are other issues that you have to address in addition to that, and one that is a special interest to me is what emerged from the talk of Elke, the fact that you have to take care of old people, and but you have to take care also of babies. And I was impressed attending the meeting in Prato, and also talking in my house with a lady that has problems with her grandchildren. So I believe that there are problems that require that in action. I already talked with Marco Boiati. So I would say, Marco, don't you think that this is the kind of work that you have to make in action? That so that's the sense of that When I said revolution, that's what I meant. You see, my invite to a revolution doesn't mean that you have to take a machine gun. You have to work very hard. So what do you think, Marco? Can you contribute to?
Thank you, Paolo, for involving me. As I explained, as I presented yesterday, yes, I work on babies, but of course I'm not a doctor, I'm not a neurologist, I am someone who maybe a sort of a son of this context of this interdisciplinary sector, because I was formed in physics and then I applied these tools, quite a long travel journey across different sectors to babies, and I'm very happy to be able to do this. I totally agree that so you were mentioning babies and aged people. I think this is a call for applying our science, the science that we do, focus at least part of it, of have in mind what could be perfect. So so maybe the what I can say and what I can think, so after these 3 days of this conference, is that there was a flourishing of investigations and tools from physics, from statistical physics, that could be very useful for the study of biological systems, but also of the society. My simple will is that this can go on even more, because I think there is still some sort of incomplete knowledge of one sector, of the physics towards biology, neuroscience, etc., and vice versa. On one side, physicists may not even appreciate how powerful are their tools, and how much more sophisticated are their tools with respect to the ones that are typically used by all medicine, which are very simple and sometimes very rough. And on the other hand, it's difficult to approach a biological system and understand what you really need to know, how you really need to advance. So there is always a big problem, let's say, a big challenge of the question you have to pose. What do you need to do to improve the life of babies or the life of aged people? What do you, and for this, to answer this question, you really have to just reason together and think together. And I think we did advances till now, but there is still a lot of way to go.
Yes. So, well, if you want to make some comments.
Following up on your comment, I think one of the questions, and I think this is also implicit in Paolo, it's of course a question of interlinking disciplines and issues of interdisciplinarity, but the question is how to really move from knowledge and knowledge production into practice, right? That's the entire issue about action and intervention, and what kinds of maybe interdisciplinary networks can be mobilized to really bring about tangible and tangible action and impact in the world where these issues are being discussed. I very much appreciate the wonderful, so like arena of experimentation and thinking and collective thought. But the question is really how to move this forward into practice. And that is something in terms of intervention, transformation, structural change that, of course, requires people of other disciplines to be brought in, but it may require also different paradigms in addition to the ones that you were mentioning.
Thank you. Other comment?
So,
I'm messaging with Pingitore. He told me,
from Pingitore?
yes,
Okay, very
messaging.
well.
He asked me to ask you what your thought, what you think about scientists as an artist.
Oh.
Oh, sono Pingitore.
Well, I believe that that question should be addressed to April more than to me. But yes, I believe there is a deep connection because I think that should also go back to the talk that has been done today about Kahneman and the fact that the slow and the fast thinking is. So I believe when he says that don't have to use science is totally rational. So to do intuitive part. So I think that the art might be useful, not to solve the problem, but to give suggestions to make people move. So no, I am in favor of the idea of considering. Well, for at the level, so you talk about, often you talk about conjectures, but the art might serve the role of generating conjectures that might be important. That my feeling is. Alessandro, thank you very much for your book.